My name is Joe Warzycha. I'm the animal cruelty investigator for the Rhode Island SPCA. Part of my duties include conducting animal cruelty investigations throughout the state of Rhode Island. We've come a long way in the definition of animal cruelty. Years ago, it used to be those basic three provisions of food, water, and shelter. Now there are laws to prevent the neglect of an animal to the point where the animal is enduring pain and suffering, physically abusing or mistreating an animal. The length of time an animal can be tethered or confined in an enclosure. Currently, I have two female Siberian Huskies. I've owned a German Shepherd, Golden Retriever, a Pit Bull mix, and my two girls, my two Huskies that I have at home now. I love them to pieces, and I have no doubt that they feel the same. There is no typical day. I think that's what makes the job interesting is I really don't know what my day is going to entail until I come in the morning. We probably receive around 500 complaints per year.
I want to report animal neglect. They have a husky that is tethered outside pretty much 24 hours a day, always out there no matter what the weather.
Yes, that is all common space.
Okay. So you haven't seen him eat in a couple days?
I haven't seen him physically eat.
I would say dogs and horses make up the largest percentage of the complaints that I get, but I can say that I've seen pretty close to every species or a number of species of animals. Some of the complaints I can resolve over the phone by simply educating people. If it's something I feel that animal control can resolve, I'll forward the complaint to them. Then the remainder, I would say personally, about 150 investigations per year that we conduct here. So in Rhode Island, under Title IV, covers all the laws regarding animals. There are probably maybe 5 or 6 that I deal with on a regular basis. Your first one, what we call mistreatment of animals, and that's your basic provision of food, water, and shelter. There's your unnecessary cruelty statute, which deals with inflicting pain or suffering or cruelty on an animal. We had a case of a dog that we named Indy. Somebody abandoned the dog at our facility. The dog was very, very skinny, was severely matted, meaning that his fur was kind of growing in clumps, and growing in clumps to the point where it actually restricted his ability to move his hind end. He was so heavily matted around his back end that it just kind of encased his legs and prevented him from walking. His nails were severely overgrown, growing into the pads of his feet. So we charged him with 1 count of unnecessary cruelty. He received, I believe, a 6-month suspended sentence, no jail time. Abandonment of animals is big. Our felony, which is the malicious injury or killing of an animal. Another case involving a dog, his name was Boss, we actually renamed him Rue. Neighbors had called and complained that they heard a man beating his dog. His cranium, probably twice the normal size. One of his legs was visibly distorted, was actually turned backwards and broken to the point where it was beyond repair and had to be amputated. So we charged him with our felony statute for the malicious injury of that dog. There's also what we call a tethering bill that talks about the length the tether must be. You can't tether a dog on a choke collar or a prong collar. It has limitations on how many hours you can keep an animal tethered, how many hours you can keep an animal confined. Animal confinement in motor vehicles is very big in the summertime, so between the months of June, July, August, when it's super hot out. Certainly have provisions for animal fighting, which we don't really see a whole lot of. That's pretty much the major ones. The most frustrating part is the court system. We work, I say we because it's not just me. I do the investigations, but there's a lot of people involved in the whole process. And the frustrating part is you put all this time and effort and emotion into these cases, and they get into the court system, and the penalties that are handed down are less than what we would feel appropriate. We feel that the punishments never fit the crime, and that's something I can't really find the answer to why that is. But that's probably the most frustrating and disappointing part of doing this. The first one that comes to mind is a case involving a dog. We named this dog Ichabod. This was in Providence. I go to the apartment, and presented before me was an emaciated, what was a black Labrador retriever. We brought the dog back to the shelter, gave it a complete medical exam. Nothing medically was found wrong with the dog. Over a period of, I want to say 6 or 8 weeks, the dog doubled or more than doubled in weight. So we charged her with one count of mistreatment of animals for failing to provide adequate food for the dog. The case didn't end the way we would have liked it to. She pled no contest and actually received a $50 contribution. No jail time, no fine. There may have been very small time of probation in there, but I don't even recall that she received probation. The difficult part with animals is most of the time, unless you're dealing with a large animal, they're behind closed doors. So normally you knock on the door, you get the attention of the owner or the caretaker of the animal, identify myself, this is the reason why I'm here, and ask permission to see the animal. We're subject to the same restrictions as police officers regarding search and seizure. We just don't have clear authority to go into somebody's house, to go on somebody's property. We have limitations. So obviously I want to get my eyes, a visual on the animal. If it's a skinny dog or a skinny horse, the animal's not being fed. There are actually nationally recognized charts that I use that help you determine the body condition of a dog or a horse. They have one for cats as well. Horse one is pretty detailed. It's much more detailed than the dog one. If the animal is skinny, then you want to start asking questions about, is your animal sick? How old is your animal? What are you feeding it? When was the last time it was seen by a veterinarian? The neck, the withers, the loin, tail head, the ribs, and the shoulder. So it's a physical assessment, physically putting your hands on the horse, and you give each one a score, and then you kind of average the score at the end. But I can kind of tell here she's going to be somewhere in a 2, and 1 is as bad as it gets. So one of two things: she's not feeding her what she's telling me she's feeding her, or there's something medically wrong with the horse. Say on any given day someone calls and says, my neighbor has a dog and the dog's left outside and it's really cold out. There's a scale called the weather safety scale. This is specifically for dogs. On one end it has the temperatures going from extreme heat to extreme cold. The way the chart works is you find the temperature on the chart, you follow it up, and it'll give you a number. There are some adjustments to the scale, but it helps assign kind of a numerical value to weather and the specific breed of dog. If it's something that I feel will warrant criminal charges, we do have the right to seize the animal.
Can you ask me why you're doing this?
That's animal cruelty. That's why I'm doing this. That is completely unacceptable. Do you want to sign the dog over to me?
You might as well, because if we can't take him...
Normally in cases like that, I'll always ask if they want to sign the dog over, because if they sign the dog over, then they've relinquished any rights to that dog, regardless of how the case ends. If it's something that I think could maybe be corrected and the owner is relatively cooperative, it's not that egregious of an offense, we'll talk about an appropriate feeding regimen, and then we'll say I'll come back in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever appropriate time frame is to check on the animal. Very important also is having the animal examined by a veterinarian. You have to rule out medical factors, and then once you're able to do that, then you monitor the animal. Photographs are very important, because obviously that's a big substance of the investigations. The animal can't tell you what happened. Take pictures again in a week or a couple weeks, reweigh the animal in a week or a couple weeks, and you're continuing to build your case. Once the investigation is complete and I'm confident there's enough evidence to charge the person, at that point, that's when we start working with the local police department. Say it was Providence, for example, I would contact Providence Police, tell them my investigation is complete. We would sit down, discuss it. Yes, we agree there's enough probable cause to charge this individual, and at that point, we either ask them to come in or draw up an arrest warrant, and then it gets into the court system and you begin the whole court process of adjudicating the case.
Joe is an absolutely unbelievable, dedicated individual.
For the state, I think it's fantastic that we're able to have a cruelty investigator here. All the work that he does is phenomenal.
To only have one animal cruelty investigator for the whole state, and for him to do what he's able to do is just really incredible.
I think it makes a huge difference, just in the community in general, to know that it is important to us here in the state to be that voice.
He is just a tremendous, tremendous person, and he's done wonders for the society.
Some days, I feel good about what I've done. It can certainly be depressing, the things that you see. I mean, I take the emotions home with me. A lot of people will say, I don't know how you do what you do, but I'd rather be in a position to do something as difficult as it is than, to stand by and not be able to do anything. So I love what I do, and, most days I feel good about it. I don't think I'll ever be without an animal in my life. I, hope to expand that someday, to larger animals, and, maybe have a little farm with some goats and cow and a horse or something. Yeah.